But prosecutors say that dashing public persona hides a much darker truth, that Simpson is a
Sydney Brooke Simpson has broken her silence after 3 decades. She has officially confirmed what was once kept absolutely secret. On the night her mother was murdered, she saw something that made everything irreversible. This is the word of the only survivor in that house. After O.J. Simpson's death, Sydney did not shy away.
That's right, George. We have breaking news for our viewers in the West. O.J. Simpson has died at the age of 76.
She made a final statement, ending all the controversy about the relationship between her and the father who divided the whole country because of a sentence. What Sydney said not only shed light on a horrifying truth, but also closed the door on a bloody and silent history.
Highway Patrol.
This is AC. I have OJ in the car. I'm coming up the freeway.
Certain that OJ is in the passenger seat.
Mr. Simpson is a wanted murder suspect.
After O.J. Simpson's death in April 2024, she officially admitted that what happened inside the Brentwood home in 1994 was not just a crime for her.
June 13, 1994. Los Angeles police arrived to a crime scene at Bundy Drive in upscale Brentwood. They find no witnesses, no murder weapon, just 2 victims.
In an internal conversation recorded and released after the funeral, Sydney declared, "I don't remember everything, but I know I saw something that no one wants to admit." It was a direct statement that ended any question about whether she was aware of anything the night her mother, Nicole Brown Simpson, was murdered. She spoke clearly about the night of June 12, 1994. "I heard heavy footsteps across the floor, a crash, a scream, then there was a long silence." In a personal statement filed with a private legal agency in 2024, Sydney detailed her memory of a large male figure standing in the doorway to the backyard with blood on his hands. She later identified the figure as O.J. Simpson, she said. "I knew it from that day on," she said, "but no one would let me talk about it. I had to learn to erase the memory as if it didn't happen." Since O.J. Simpson's death, Sydney has decided to release all of the documents she has kept over the years. Among them is a 2019 private statement she wrote after a face-to-face meeting with O.J. in Florida. During the meeting, O.J. gave her a copy of the book, If I Did It, and said, "You should read this. You'll understand me better." Sydney wrote in her document, "I felt like he was confessing. He didn't have to say it out loud. The way he looked at me when he said it, I knew it. That was the last time I saw him." After that meeting, Sydney cut off all contact. That same year, she sent a private letter to the Goldman family attorney saying, "I don't want an apology. I just want the truth to be acknowledged in whatever way possible." Those words were later included in legal documents documenting Sydney's refusal to inherit any part of O.J.'s estate. In late 2023, Sydney made a single trip to Las Vegas where O.J. was undergoing treatment for terminal cancer. The trip lasted less than an hour. According to a transcript of her conversation with the aide who was present at the time, Sydney made it clear, "I didn't come to forgive him. I came to let him know that I still remember." The aide confirmed that O.J. was unresponsive, only shedding tears. Sydney left shortly after saying the final words, "I am no longer your daughter." After O.J.'s death, in an internal estate settlement document filed in May 2024, it was confirmed that Sydney had disowned all remaining assets, including undisclosed joint investments. In an accompanying statement, she wrote, "I cannot accept anything that has my mother's blood on it. Whether it is legal or not, it is morally wrong." The period from 1989 to 1994 was a period of constant turmoil for the family of O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson. According to Los Angeles Police Department administrative records, the authorities responded to at least 9 domestic violence incidents at the couple's residence. Of these, the New Year's Eve 1989 incident was noted to have obvious signs of injury and resulted in O.J. Simpson being prosecuted and sentenced to a suspended prison sentence with community service. In 1993, Nicole Brown Simpson filed for divorce. In a civil court filing regarding the custody division, She described O.J.'s relationship with the children as unstable, unmanageable, and emotionally vulnerable. The court accepted the papers in March 1993, and the final ruling granted primary custody to the mother, with the father initially granted supervised visitation on a scheduled basis. School records from Brentwood Elementary School in the 1993-1994 school year show that Sydney had 3 unexplained suspensions, later determined to be for psychological reasons, including anxiety and negative reactions to loud noises. Internal documents from the school counselor at the time show that Sydney once requested a change of class because she did not want to sit near the door. On the night of June 12, 1994, when the murders occurred, Sydney and her younger brother were at their mother's house. According to the crime scene investigation team, both children were found safe in a second-floor bedroom. Nonetheless, a note from a social worker who provided psychological support after the incident stated that Sydney had awoken in the middle of the night to hear noises and voices. The note, which was included in the Los Angeles County Family Court's emergency intervention file, shows the direct impact the incident had on her mental state. Soon after the incident, custody of Sydney was transferred to her mother's family, specifically Nicole's mother, Juditha Brown. A 1995 Child Protective Services monitoring report showed that Sydney had difficulty adjusting to her new school environment and often refused to interact with strangers. She was transferred to a smaller private facility to reduce social pressure. A 1996 medical report from the family's personal therapist confirmed that Sydney had signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, and a 2-year course of treatment was prescribed. Sydney did not participate in any public hearings or television appearances related to the case in the years that followed. According to records forwarded by the California Orphans Association, she refused to appear at any official memorial service, including the 5th anniversary of her mother's death in 1999, but an invitation from her extended family. In a student behavior assessment report from Gulliver Preparatory High School, where Sydney attended from 2000-2003 in Florida, the homeroom teacher noted, "Students maintain a social distance, often avoiding topics related to family or personal events." Accompanying administrative records show that the family proactively requested that the student's identity be kept confidential during out-of-school events to limit public attention. A 2004 document from an independent psychological counseling organization said Sydney continued individual therapy sessions through 2006, focusing on topics related to trust and personal boundaries. A final assessment determined that the subject had made significant progress in emotional control and the ability to build a life separate from her family history. Sydney Brooke Simpson grew up in what most internal review records describe as a sustained, stressful environment. Throughout that time, she has shown no overt signs of any intention to reestablish traditional family relationships. Administrative and professional documents confirm that her choice to remain silent was not a random reaction, but rather an adaptive mechanism developed early in life to cope with the extraordinary psychological effects that persisted for many years. Unrestable youth. From 2004 to 2008, Sydney Brooke Simpson attended Boston University, majoring in sociology with a concentration in criminology and deviant behavior. Her academic record shows that she completed her degree on time with a grade point average in the top half of her department. In her thesis, Sydney focused on the psychological consequences of media-involved family murders on children using real-life examples, but did not mention the case involving her parents. In 2009, Sydney moved to Atlanta, Georgia, to work for a nonprofit organization that supports youth who have experienced domestic violence. Her employment contract lasted 14 months. In her personnel file at the time, her manager described her as professional reserved, but with a strong empathy for cases involving childhood trauma. During 2010-2012, Sydney entered into a formal relationship with Stuart Alexander Lee, a British citizen living in Florida. In a 2017 civil investigation related to a separate property dispute, Stewart provided a statement about the period of living together with Sidney. The statement stated that Sidney frequently suffered from sleep disturbances, maintained a state of psychological defense, and refused to participate in large social events. She expressed a clear view on keeping her personal and family background private and asked her boyfriend not to mention the name O.J. Simpson under any circumstances. This statement was assessed as legitimate and accurate by the Florida Federal Attorney's Office. During 2013 to 2016, Sidney dabbled in real estate investing. According to the Florida Registry of Corporations, she co-founded a limited liability company that acquired and renovated older homes in the St. Petersburg area. The business began to generate steady profits in 2015. All transactions and activities were conducted under her full legal name, Sidney Brooks Simpson, marking the time when she stopped using a pseudonym or alternate identity on official documents. Also in 2016, Sidney was confirmed to have enrolled in an online forensics course at a private university in California. According to her academic records, she completed the short course, which lasted 8 months, with an A grade. There is no indication that she intended to pursue a career in the criminal justice field, but her course selection reflects a particular interest in the topic of family crime with lasting psychological trauma. Since 2017, Sidney has refused all requests to appear on media programs related to the O.J. Simpson case. According to statistics from 2 major media agencies in the United States, at least 16 requests for television programs, podcasts, and personal interviews have been rejected in writing. In her response, Sidney cited the need to avoid reactivating traumatic experiences and protect legitimate personal boundaries. In addition to her business, Sidney maintains anonymous social sponsorships in the field of caring for orphans who have witnessed domestic violence. Her 2019 tax records show that she was the primary sponsor of a free legal counseling program in Tampa, Florida, for women and children affected by domestic violence. This period also marked the time when Sidney severed all social ties that had media elements or involved relatives on her biological father's side. In the Internal Financial Reconciliation Report submitted to the bank in 2020, the family description section clearly stated no related parties on the father's side. All administrative and financial data from this period show that Sidney maintained a strategy of living anonymously, strictly controlling access to personal information, and focusing entirely on building an independent career foundation. In documents filed by his personal lawyer from 2021, the goal is described succinctly: to be autonomous, separate, and not to be defined by someone else's past. Reborn in the desolation. Since early 2017, Sidney Brooks Simpson has been working to build the legal and financial foundation for JMI Investment Properties, a real estate company that bears the initials of its 3 founding shareholders, of which Sidney is the majority shareholder and CEO according to its registration with the Florida Department of Business. The company operates in the field of renovation leasing and long-term ownership of residential real estate in the Tampa Bay area, St. Petersburg, and several inland counties. Independently audited financial statements in 2021 show that the company's total net worth is more than $3.1 million, an average growth of 17% per year since its inception. Credit records released by Equifax in the third quarter of 2022 show that Sidney maintains a stable financial position with no risky loans, and all properties owned are in her personal name, not held in trust through a third party. The majority of the properties in her portfolio are long-term rentals, small complexes and townhouses that are being exploited at optimal levels of utilization. Outside of business, Sidney officially registered her marriage in Pinellas County, Florida, in 2020 to a non-media partner. Her birth certificate, verified by the Florida Office of Civil Records, shows that her first daughter was born in 2021 and is named after her late biological mother's middle name. Legal documents related to guardianship and health insurance are structured as separate assets, reflecting the intention to build a completely independent family ecosystem legally and financially. In 2022, Sydney and her brother Justin founded a new restaurant business in downtown St. Petersburg. According to a report from the Florida Department of Commerce, the establishment operates under a franchise model and has registered intellectual property rights for the brand. Operating reports for the first half of 2024 show that the model has met its expected financial targets with stable gross profit margins and no legal disputes. Sydney has been represented legally by an independent law firm since 2016. All civil proceedings, including property transfers, child protection, and business contracts, are conducted through formal legal documents. In the files kept at this law firm, it is confirmed that Sydney maintains a personal privacy by choice status, which means that all forms of identity disclosure are restricted during external administrative and financial proceedings. Since 2019, all invitations to appear on television shows, panels, or interviews have been responded to by legal representatives with a uniform refusal. In addition, Sydney has requested to be removed from the invitation list of 3 national documentary production units planning to recreate the case related to Nicole Brown Simpson. The reason for the refusal is stated in the document: to maintain privacy and protect the family from exposure to sensitive content. Administrative, financial, and legal data collected from 2020 to 2025 show that Sydney maintains a stable standard of living, builds a comprehensive independent foundation, and develops a legal protection system to maintain control of personal information. All external activities are conducted through third parties with no signs of media cooperation or direct communication with the press, regardless of size or sector. From the above data, it can be asserted that Sydney Brooks Simpson has restructured her entire personal, legal, and financial life in a way that completely separates her from the background that has bound her identity for 3 decades. There is no indication that any element of the O.J. Simpson name is maintained in her current records. The entire new life structure is built on a foundation of individuality, transparency, and legal consistency. Legacy and final termination. On April 10, 2024, Orenthal James Simpson died in Las Vegas, Nevada, from complications related to late-stage prostate cancer. According to records from the local medical examiner's office, the illness lasted 14 months and was monitored by a private medical team. All funeral arrangements were made in-house with the list of next of kin listed on the death certificate, not including the name Sydney Brooks Simpson. In the estate documents prepared by O.J. Simpson's law firm and filed with the Clark County Probate Court, Sydney was not named as a beneficiary in any of the estate or financial trusts. Instead, a copy of a disclaimer signed by Sydney was attached to the estate stating his personal position: "I disclaim all rights to any portion of the estate, whether directly or indirectly, of O.J. Simpson." The document was legally authenticated and dated 3 months before Mr. Simpson's death. A personal statement signed by Sydney, included in a separate document released by her law firm in May 2024, clearly defined her position on her final relationship with her late father. The statement consisted of 6 paragraphs, the last of which read, "I retain the right to choose what memory will survive in my life. I choose to keep my mother." According to legal documents, Sydney has taken all necessary administrative steps to remove herself from the trusts that O.J. Simpson established between 2011 and 2013. These trusts were established to manage her long-term assets, including real estate investment holdings and personal interests in intellectual property. The removal from the trusts was done through a legal waiver, which is permanent and cannot be revoked or appealed. Records from Wells Fargo Bank, which manages Simpson's passive assets, show that the entire portion that could have been transferred to legal heirs was retained in the undispersed estate, which Sydney and her brother both refused to receive. According to a confirmation letter issued by the bank in June 2024, this portion of the estate will be processed under a disclaimer of beneficiary mechanism and redistributed according to Nevada law. According to the Personal Information and Communications Monitoring Report from privacy protection firm ID Authority, Sydney continues to maintain a high level of personal data monitoring not allowing her name to appear in data analysis related to O.J. Simpson's estate persona or public communications. All records, identities, and ownership related to Sidney are encrypted and protected by permanent confidentiality provisions. Sidney has completed all necessary legal, financial, and personnel procedures to completely withdraw from all matters related to O.J. Simpson, renunciation of inheritance rights, cancellation of representation rights, cutting off funeral contacts, refusing media responsibilities, and keeping his identity completely confidential are a series of continuous actions carried out systematically organized and legally confirmed. During this entire process, there has been no sign of reconciliation, restoration of relationships, or adjustment of personal stance. The confirmation documents, signed by Sidney herself, along with a series of administrative measures, put a definitive end to her relationship with her late father. She chose a clear option: no reconstruction, no maintenance, no acceptance. This was not a knee-jerk reaction, but the result of a long process of awareness, analysis, and action carried out in accordance with legal standards and personal ethics. Sidney Brooks Simpson has chosen to step out of the shadow of her famous and controversial father with clear, cool, and consistent decisions. What she has confirmed, past and present, not only closes a painful chapter in her personal history, but also affirms an important thing: some truths cannot be buried forever. If you feel this story provides a necessary perspective on the real consequences of family tragedies that span generations, please like to support serious content, share to spread in-depth information, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on other stories waiting to be told. Don't forget to leave a comment below because every perspective is valuable.